Okay. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. Rajesh Prabhu, Sunil Prabhu, Kiran Prabhu, Madhu Prabhu, Chandra.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. And Chandrakant Prabhu, thank you for managing this in the last moment and running this until now. I am also a little late today.
Prabhuji, dhanyavad.
So let's start today's verse then. So please repeat after me. Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Manohrudi Niruddha cha
Manohrudi Nirudhya
Murdhyadhyayatmana Pranam
Murdhyadhyayatmana Pranam
Asthito Yoga Dharanam
Astito Yoga Dharanam
Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Manohridi Niruddha cha
Manohridi Nirudhya
Murdhyadhyayatmana Pranam
Murdhyadhyayatmana Pranam
Astito Yoga Dharanam.
Astito Yoga Dharanam.
Okay, we can take a couple of recitations. Let's start with Rajesh Parve Prabhu.
Yes. Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Manohrudi Niruddha cha
Manohrudi Nirudhya
Murdhyadhyayatmanaha
Pranam Murdhyadhyayat Pranam
Murdhanadhyayatmana Pranam
Asthito Yoga Dharanam
Astito Yoga Dharanam.
Thank you, Prabhu. Kiran Prabhu.
Prabhuji, can someone take it?
Sure. Okay. Sunil Prabhu, you want to recite?
Oh. Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Sarvadvarani Sanyamya
Manohrudi Niruddha cha
Manohrudi Nirudhya
Murdhyadhyayana Tatmanam
Murdhanadhyayatmana Pranam
Pranamastito Yoga Dharanam
Astito Yoga Dharanam.
Thank you, Prabhu. So let's do word for word translation. Sarvadvarani means all the doors of the body. So now in 5th chapter we read about the 9 gates of the body, right? There is body. So all these doors. Samyamya, controlling. So controlling all them. Mana means the mind. Hridhi means in the heart. Niruddha means confining. Cha means also. Murdhni means on the head, top of the head. Adhaya means fixing. Atmanaha means of the soul. Pranam means the life air. Asthitaha means situated in. Yoga dharanam, dharana. So the yogic situation. So what Krishna is saying here in the translation, the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagement. Closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head, one establishes himself in yoga. So in the 6th chapter, we read about Ashtanga Yoga, right? So there are 8 limbs of yoga. So here it is more focusing on the dharana. So how a yogi is establishing dharana. So the yogic situation of the purpose of yoga, we read earlier that yoga Indriya Sanyam. So yoga is performed for controlling the senses. And how do we control the senses? By, we'll read eventually that in Krishna consciousness, the senses are automatically controlled. They don't have to be forcefully controlled. But a person who is trying to control his senses, so that's why he is performing the yoga. So the purpose of yoga is to controlling the senses. So the yogic situation is of detachment. So detachment from all the sensual activities which are for sense gratification. And closing, so with that, closing the door of all the senses. So all our five senses and working senses, 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. 5 ज्ञानेंद्रिय आणि 5 कर्मेंद्रिय. And these are all surrounded around the mind. So mind is the central of all these 10 senses which it is controlling. So closing the doors of all these senses and fixing the mind on the heart. So in the heart of our Paramatma resides in our heart. That's what we read in 6th chapter also. And there also it said that the yogi should focus within the heart. His mind should be fixed on the Paramatma feature in the heart. And lifting the life air to the top of the head. So earlier it said that the life air, Bhruvor Madhya, the Agya Chakra is there up to there, but here it is saying Murdhya, means on the top of the head, one establishes himself in yoga. That is the dharana position. So this is what Krishna is explaining in briefly about the yoga process, how one can live his body, one who is in the Brahman realization. So let's read the purport. It's a short purport.
In the 6th chapter, the process is described in detail. But as mentioned before, the practice is not practical in this age. The best process is Krishna consciousness. If one is always able to fix his mind on Krishna in devotional service, it is very easy for him to remain in an undisturbed transcendental trance or in samadhi.
Is suggested here, and the first is the purpose of yoga, as we said, close the door of all sense enjoyment. So yoga indriya sanyama. So yoga is performed for indriya sanyama, and that's why we see all these yogis, they go to Himalayas or they detach themselves from all the materialistic activities. But that is, as we read in the 6th chapter, that is artificial detachment, because we are made such a way that we have to have some or other kind of attachment. But when we are attached in bhakti of Krishna, then all other things are automatically, we get detached from all other things, because Vishaya vinivartante niraharastha dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drushtva nivartate. Rasavarjam, rasa means taste in certain things what we have. It's easier to give them up. Rasa varjam. Why? Because we have found higher taste. Param drushtva nivartate. Because in bhakti, when one gets taste of bhakti, and when one finds rasa in that, then all the other mundane things, he slowly starts losing interest. And all the anarthas, what we have accumulated in our heart over a period of so many lifetimes, they also slowly get eradicated. All the bad habits, they start going away. And that's why the sense enjoyment part, why are we doing sense enjoyment? Anyone? When we say sense enjoyment, I like to eat something and I want to enjoy my taste buds. But what is the reason we want to do that?
We are attached with that, is a kind of,
Yeah.
or we like it.
But why are we attached to that?
Maybe our liking or our thoughts around it.
Liking means we are seeking for happiness. So when I think that, oh, if I eat that gulab jamun, it will give me happiness. So we are seeking happiness through sense enjoyment. or I want to go and watch a movie because I expect to get some kind of happiness by watching something, by giving some pleasure to my eyes by watching certain things, or by hearing certain type of music. I want to enjoy that pleasure through my senses. So I am seeking for happiness. That is the whole purpose. Because the soul's, jiva's natural tendency is to be happy. Anandamayobhyasat. Because if we read earlier, right, or we discussed this earlier, Krishna's form is not like us, our material form and his spiritual form. And his spiritual form is Satchidananda Vigraha. Vigraha means form, but his form is Sat, means eternal, that never deteriorates like ours. It never gets old or never finishes or anything. So it is Sat. Chit means it is fully knowledgeable. It's full of all the knowledge. And Anand, it is completely blissful. And we are, because we are part and parcel of him as a spiritual being, we have the same tendency, same nature, but because we are put into this material condition and we identify ourselves with this material body, we are seeking happiness through this material body. And that is what our ignorance is, or avidya is. And because our original nature is to be happy, we are seeking happiness. The soul or the spiritual being is seeking happiness in this material world, and it is always getting frustrated seeking that happiness, because the happiness here is not true happiness. It gives us some time of mitigation of pain or distress, or some sense pleasure, but which has end and beginning. Actually, in 5th chapter, we read earlier, right? 22nd verse. That the intelligent person does not indulge into sensory happiness because it has a beginning and end. ये ही संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःख योनय एवते आद्यंतवंत कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधा. So that type of happiness is here. ये ही संस्पर्शजा भोगा. Samsparsha means all the happiness we are trying to derive here is by contact of that sense object or vishaya with the senses. So when I am trying to see something beautiful, that beautiful forms contact with my sense of sight, that gives me some kind of pleasure, or some kind of music which I had developed liking for. When I hear that music, that gives me some happiness, or some kind of food which I have developed a taste for, ras for. That type of food, when it comes in contact with my tongue and my taste buds feel satisfied, that gives me happiness temporary. So yehi samsparshaja bhoga. I want to get ते भोगण्याचा एन्जॉयमेंट. भोगा इज एन्जॉयमेंट. मी एखाद्या गोष्टीचा भोग घेतोय. सो दॅट भोग इज actually, that is our ultimate cause of distress also. Dukkha yonaya evate. So whatever happiness I'm trying to derive through that sense perception, or through those senses by enjoying the sense object, is the cause of my distress, because that is temporary, and as soon as it ends, I get frustrated, or I get distressed. Or even if I try to do that more, then there is more problem, because even if somebody likes a gulab jamun, he may like it for first 2, maybe 3 or 5. Beyond that, he himself will say, no, I am good. So that enjoyment will not remain with n number of gulab jamuns if he's trying to eat. Why? Because adi antavanta kaunteya. Because all that type of happiness has beginning and end. And this we can experience from all our day-to-day life. every happiness we try to derive has a beginning and end. It ends all the time. And that's, I think, one of the stories what we heard. I don't know if it is Akbar Birbal or somewhere, that probably Akbar asks Birbal, what is something that you can tell a person who is happy that will make him unhappy, and to an unhappy person it will make him happy? So Birbal says that there is only one statement that will make a happy person unhappy and unhappy person happy. That sentence is, this will also end. So if the person is happy and if he knows that this is going to end, he'll become unhappy. And if the person is in distress, if he understands that, oh, this will also end, then okay, eventually I'll get happiness. So that's what. So our happiness and distress, or our happiness particularly, has a beginning and end. And that's why na teshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part of it. He does not indulge into that. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery that actually is called as misery, which are due to the contact with material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasure have beginning and end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. And why we indulge in those kind of happiness? Because that is our nature, and we don't know what real happiness is. But when one engages in service of Krishna, then automatically he starts experiencing that happiness, and then all these mundane things become immaterial for him. They become very less important for him. So, and that sense control, dhamma, is called pratyahara, or withdrawing the senses from the sense object, which is, again, in the second chapter, Krishna gave example of a tortoise. Because whenever it wants, it can pull in its limbs in the shell. So in the same manner, a person who has controlled senses, the senses are in his control. He has not, and rather he is not under control of senses. He can pull in, or he can control his senses from the sense object by his own will. And that is what one of the steps in the Ashtanga process, yoga system, is called pratyahara. Yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, and samadhi. So these are the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga, ultimately samadhi. So the sense organs acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch, should be fully controlled and should not be allowed in sense gratification. But this is what the yogi are trying to do. But even they fail, because eventually they don't find happiness in what they are doing, and then they come back and then indulge in some kind of happiness, or they get into some kind of humanitarian work, because they get frustrated by this, because the ultimate happiness they have not experienced yet. Now, in this way, the mind focuses on the super soul in the heart, the Paramatma in the heart, and then life force is raised to the top of the head. That is the highest of all the chakras. That is the, what about it? Sahasrara chakra, right? On the top.
Yes.
One below was Agnya chakra, and above is the Sahasrara chakra.
Sahasrara.
Yeah. In this chapter, in this way, the mind focuses on the super soul in the heart, and the life is force. So in the 6th chapter, this process was already, we studied that in the Dhyana Yoga chapter. But as mentioned, this process is not practical in this age. It is very, very difficult to control our senses. And the best process that is recommended, that's why, is Krishna consciousness, or engaging ourselves in the Supreme Lord, who is the controller of everything. And we read this. It is not that somebody concocted this. All the Shastras tell this, and in BhagavadGita, Krishna himself is telling this, that he is the Supreme Lord. He is the supreme controller of even the great Devatas and all the great Maharshis and sages. So, if one is always able to fix his mind in Krishna's devotional service, it is very easy for him to remain undisturbed in the transcendental trance, or that is the highest yoga level is called samadhi. So here in this we read about pratyahara, that is controlling the senses, then dharana, that is when one is established in such a way, in that with determination, then also dhyana, that is mind focuses on the supreme heart, and when one is established in this, that is ultimately when one is thinking only how I can serve Krishna, he is always thinking of Krishna, that is samadhi. And that's what Krishna is telling, how one can think of me all the time. So here he is giving the process of yoga, but eventually we'll read that the end of this chapter also he says that the best of the process is engaging in his devotional service. That way, because if somebody is engaged in his devotional service, it doesn't matter, he doesn't have to control separately. It is automatically happening, and we see this from all the sages. Tukaram Maharaj, he's always thinking, he was not a great yogi, or he didn't follow any yoga process, but he was always thinking of Panduranga, always, all the time. Santa Janabai, she was always thinking of Krishna. There was one very nice story I heard, I think I have probably mentioned that Kabirji, he came looking for Janabai in here in the town or village where she was living. And then by hearing her stories, that she recites very nice songs about Panduranga or Vitthal or Krishna. So he came looking for her, and then he went to one small village where two ladies were fighting about Gaurila काय म्हणतात रे, the cow dung cake. Help me, Sunil Prabhu or Chandrakant Prabhu.
गौरीच म्हणतात. गौरीला कावडंग केक म्हणजे गौरी.
गौरी ते सांग, गौरी म्हणतो आपण, गौरी
गवरी म्हणतात.
गौरी हा ओके.
गौरी म्हणजे देवी आणि गवरी म्हणजे शेणाचं ते
ठेपलं, हा ते बनवलेलं ते तेल म्हणून
आपल्याला
वापरतात.
गवरी म्हणतात.
तर ते गौऱ्या कशा, राजेश प्रभू, डू यू अंडरस्टँड?
या तो GOW आणि गौरी देवी ही GAU.
Yeah. No, but you know what Gauri is, right? Okay.
यज्ञाला वगैरे यूज करतो ना आपण.
Okay, yes. So that's what they were. So they were fighting. The two ladies were fighting on, this is mine, this is mine. They were fighting on that. He माझी गौरी आहे, या माझ्या गौऱ्या आहेत, हे माझ्या गौऱ्या आहेत असं. So then they see that Kabirji is coming there, and then they stop him, and they said that, now you have to make a judgment that this is what the one lady says that, हे मी थापल्या तिथे आणि मी घेऊन जाणार, आणि दुसरी म्हणते नाही, ह्या मीच केल्यात आणि इथून जाईल, हे माझ्या आहेत, मी घेऊन जाणार आहे. मग ती पहिली म्हणते नाही, मी 10 लोकांना बोलवून सांगू शकते की हे मी थापल्यात आणि ते साक्ष दिसतील माझ्यामध्ये. तर दुसरी म्हणते नाही, फक्त तुम्ही प्रत्येक गौरी उचलून कानाला लावून बघा म्हणे, त्याच्यातून फक्त विठ्ठल विठ्ठल नाव येईल, कारण मी तर सगळ्या गौऱ्या थापताना फक्त विठ्ठलाचं नाव घेतलं. And Kabir does that, and he hears, and really he hears Vitthal name in that each Gauri. And that lady is Santa Janabai. So she's fighting in the fighting spirit like that. And he didn't realize that, she could be like this lady. And then he realizes, and then he just sakshat dandavat घालतात तिच्या चरणावर, आणि so that's the story. So these are people who are always thinking of Krishna, and that's what he said in the 7th verse here. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha. You do your duty of fighting, but how? Always thinking of me. Maya arpita manobuddhir mame vaishyasa asamshaya. In this way, your mind and intelligence, manobuddhin, when you have engaged always in me, you will come to me in spiritual world for sure, asamshaya. And then he is elaborating these different processes, how one can think of me. So here he is elaborating about how a yogi will think of him, one who is in Brahman realization. So let's stop here and then get some reflections. Actually, I was thinking of doing one more verse, but let's get some reflections, and we probably will stop, or we'll see. So any thoughts, Prabhuji's?
कळतं पण फॉलो करायला फार अवघड आहे.
सोपं पण आहे ना अवघड पण आहे.
सोपं कसं आहे?
का कृष्णाची भक्ती करणं खूप सोपं आहे. जस्ट चॅन्ट हरे कृष्ण. You know 9 processes of bhakti we learned, right? Does anyone remember? Navavida bhakti.
नाही लक्षात.
So
विविध नाव लक्षात आहे तिथं त्याला, पण 9 प्रकार लक्षात नाहीये.
9 विधी भक्तीचे. So Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 7th canto, he explains about Navavida bhakti. What is that? Okay. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dastyam, Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. So what is that? It starts with Shravanam. So we are all doing Shravanam right now. We are hearing about Lord's words, His instructions, and He is not different from His instruction because He is absolute. So Shravanam, so that is one limb of bhakti, that is one vidya of bhakti. So if we are listening about Krishna all the time, or somehow or other finding our time in a way to listen about Him or listen His instruction. So listen about Him is listen His pastimes, or listen His instruction is listening BhagavadGita, or reading. Reading is also 5:22, 22:23, or 20. Just one second, I'll open that verse and we'll read. Okay, so here 23:24. Yeah. So we are hearing, right? Shravanam, we are doing this. Kirtanam, what is Kirtanam? Kirtanam is singing glory of God. Reciting whatever we hear, we say that either in mind or in loud. That's Kirtanam. Kirtanam is not necessarily always singing bhajans. So what we are doing is both Shravanam and Kirtanam. And Shravanam Kirtanam of whom? Not anybody. Shravanam Kirtanam of Vishnu. Shravanam Kirtanam of not Bollywood songs. Because unfortunately that's what today trend is. Shravanam Kirtanam of Vishnu. Okay. Then Smaranam, thinking of Him. Pada Sevanam. Pada Sevanam means His lotus feet. So offering service at His lotus feet. Lotus feet means even doing any kind of service in His temple or any kind of service to His devotees is called service. Pada Sevanam. Archanam, doing arti of Lord Krishna's deity. Vandanam, offering namaskar to Him. Dasyam, trying to become His servant. What is the duty of servant? Servant always hears the instructions of master and tries to follow it.
Sir, correct.
Tries to follow the instruction. So Krishna has taken effort and given us instruction in the form of Bhagavad Gita. If we honestly try to understand it and follow it to the best of our ability, that is also bhakti. Sakhyam, trying to be friends with Him. And eventually Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything, my mind, body and speech and everything to Lord Shri Krishna. So these are 9 processes of bhakti. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dastyam, Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. And he says that Iti Pumsar Pita Vishnu Bhaktische Navalakshana. That these are the, when Pumsa means people, when they offer these 9 lakshana of bhakti, create the Bhagavati Adha Tanmanne Dhitam Uttama. That is the best person. Adhitam Uttamam. So what does he say? Let's read the translation. Sunil Prabhu, you want to read the translation?
Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge.
These are the 9 processes that our Shastra gives, and Prahlad Maharaj, who is one of the great Vaishnavas, accepted, even though he is born in a Daitya family, he is accepted as one of the great Vaishnavas. There are 12 Mahajanas, and he is one of those 12 Mahajanas referred in the Shastra. So he is giving us this, and he says that one who accepts these methods and understands this, he is to be considered as the most learned person who has acquired the complete knowledge. Tanmanne dhitam uttamam. So these are the 9 processes. So this, if you see this process, there is nothing difficult in this. And it is not necessary that we have to do all of this. Actually, this is very long, but very, very beautiful purport, in which Prabhupada gives who is the best devotee, one who in each 9 of processes. So he says that Parikshit Maharaj is best in Shravanam. So Parikshit Maharaj is hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukdev Goswami, who is the son of Srila Vyasdev. And Shukdev Goswami got perfection in his bhakti by Kirtanam, because he is reciting this Bhagavatam. Then Smaranam is Prahlad Maharaj. Pada Sevanam is Lakshmiji. These are the exalted devotees who are best in this particular seva. So Pada Sevanam, we always see Lakshmiji is always literally doing Pada Sevanam at lotus feet of the Lord. Vishnucha payashi kayam Lakshmiji, Vishnu Bhagwanche पाय दाबत असते. So she is offering seva. And actually in the 2nd canto, when the descriptions of Vaikuntha are given, so it is said that there are thousands of Lakshmis serving in Vaikuntha. Or even Brahmaji's prayers in Brahma Samhita, it is said that Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sevyamanam. There are thousands of Lakshmis constantly serving Krishna and Vishnu in his multiple spiritual planets. Then Archanam is, again, Archanam, we just say Arti, but here Prabhupada gives elaborated here that worship with 16 types of paraphernalia. This is given in the Pancharatriki Vidhi by Narada, in the Narada Pancharati. How one should offer puja or worship. So there are different types of paraphernalia, dhup, deep, flowers, and there are so many things one can elaborately do. And that's what our rituals even earlier were. But even just doing for as ritual is not good. When one does it with understanding why he is doing, that is more important. But Krishna is, he takes whatever is good you offer. Even the person who is like approaches him with a, what do you call, bad intention, he takes whatever is good from him. Bhavagrahi Janardana. So that is Archanam. Then Vandanam, just offering namaskar to him. If possible, Dandavat Pram. Dandavat literally means like a stick. Danda means stick. When one flats completely flat on the ground like a stick, that is called Dandavat Pranam. So offering Vandanam. Dasyam, accepting oneself as his servant. Hanumanji is the best example of Dasyam. Sakhyam, friend, Arjuna is the best example of Sakhyam. And Atma Nivedanam, Bali Maharaj, who gave everything to Vamandev, including himself. Atma Nivedanam. So these are the 9 processes. And out of these, actually, Shravanam and Kirtanam are considered very easy in this world. Just chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And there are several verses, even Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that Kalar doshe nidhe rajan asti eka mahan guna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha paramurajit. that after narrating all the bad qualities of Kali Yuga, Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj in the 12th canto, 3rd chapter, that Kaler Doshe Nidhe Rajan, in this Kali Yuga there are many dosh, but Asti ek Mahan Guna, but there is ek Mahan Gun, very great quality of this Kali Yuga. What is that? Kirtanat eva Krishnasya. When one does chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra or does Kirtan of Krishna, and Krishnasya, he specifically said, Mukta Sangha Param Vraja, he immediately freed from all the calamities. So, performing bhakti of Krishna is easy, but at the same time difficult. Easy because the process is really simple, and difficult because to attain pure bhakti is difficult actually. But once we start with whatever we can do, eventually Krishna, by mercy, we can get his bhakti. Only by his mercy. Guru Krishna Krupaya Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. Brahmande Bhamita Kuno Bhagyavan Jeev. Guru Krishna Krupaya Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. That is said that in this whole Brahmand, in this whole universe, to get a pure bhakti of Krishna is very rare, but one can receive, a very fortunate Bhagyavan Jeev, very fortunate soul can receive this just by mercy of Guru and Krishna. Guru Krishna Kripa, the seed of bhakti. And then it's up to him to nurture that same, water it, and protect it from all different kinds of weeds. So these are the 9 processes. Maybe I elaborated, I got into too much, but these are the 9 processes of bhakti we talk about.
Revision झाली.
And if you get time, please read this purport. It may feel really long, but Prabhupada gives so many scriptural references here and elaborates on each process very nicely. And if you have Bhagavatam set, right? So open 7th canto and you can read this in Marathi because you have Bhagavatam set in Marathi. 7वा स्कंद 5वा अध्याय 23-24 श्लोक. So, yeah. Yes, thank you for bringing that, Prabhu. It is very important to understand that. So any additional thoughts, Prabhuji? Yes, Rajesh Prabhu, Chandrakant Prabhu.
No, Prabhu, no reflection today. Anything, whatever you.
Does it make sense? Though?
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, it makes tremendous. See the basic shloka itself makes fantastic sense. Because Shravanam is the basic Kirtanam also you have to do. Shravanam is all you have to do is here. It is probably the easiest. Nako asel tari tape recorder play khela to khanat jato. So, I mean, it becomes such an easy thing. And I don't think there is anything easier. So, which is very, very true. What we try and find it difficult is because we are looking at reaching the Janabai stage. I don't think we should look at that. We should start. Pochlo to pochlo. Not everybody can be a Janabai because whatever you produce is not going to create Vithala sound. That confidence of saying Mazatya Gauritna Vitthalacha Awaj Yel shows how much of tapasya or sadhana or whatever it is, in whichever form she has done, while she fights, if she is able to claim, that is something. She has reached the level of Prahlada. Because he was the only person who sat on the lap and said, didn't even ask to be saved, he only recited Mahavishnu's name.
Mhm.
and the lady who was unburnable got burnt.
Hmm.
So that we should aim at that, but we should start with Shravanam. At least Aikuntari Gya.
Mhm.
Be wherever there is the name of the Lord.
Actually, it is said that when we go to ask something for ourselves to Krishna, just ask him for service, or just ask him that give me your service
Exactly.
and give me ability that I will never forget you.
Bas.
That's it. And Shravanam is very, very potent and very important, as you said, Raj Prabhu, because actually, if you all know that these Vedas in earlier days, they were not written. They were
Yeah.
passed down by
Word of mouth.
oral recitation, and that's why they are also called Shruti. Shruti means
Yes.
they are heard. They are written down by Vyasdev because he saw that in Kali Yuga, people will be so
Short memory.
dumb, to be honest.
Yeah, short.
Yeah, that they
They
will
will
not
be engrossed
remember
in so
anything.
much.
Yeah,
They will be so much engrossed in material pleasures.
yeah, they will not remember anything. And we see that. So they will Manda Sumandamatayo Manda Bhagya Upadruta.
Yes.
Mhm. In the very first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he gives the qualities. Sutta Goswami elaborates the qualities of people in Kali Yuga. Prayana Alpayusha Sabhya. Kalau Asmin Yuga Jano. Manda means very lazy. Sumandamatayo means very unintelligent, or they don't know what is good for them or what is bad for them, don't remember anything.
Correct.
Manda Bhagya, very unfortunate. And Upadruta, on top of it, always disturbed.
Yes.
Always under stress. So for them, Srila Vyasdev, he created so much. He took this effort and gave us this knowledge in the form of Vedic literature. It is
Yes.
so much mercy. So, yeah. And unfortunately, we don't value it, or we sometimes question it.
Ah.
So, yeah, it's what can be more unfortunate than that. So, no.
Even questioning is okay.
Mhm.
Sometimes we lambast it on the words of somebody who knows nothing of it.
Mhm.
That is even worse.
Thank you,
Questioning, at
Rajesh.
least in Sanatana,
Mhm.
questioning in Sanatana is allowed, because Arjun also asked questions, but he asked with a intent to understand,
Yes. That is it.
not with the intent to tu kutla shana. Not that kind of questioning.
Mhm.
Today, what is happening is it is that wrong kind of questioning that is happening.
No, because this knowledge
Unfortunately.
was not passed down, and it is not passed down, and everything. There are reasons for this, because eventually Kali Yuga has to
Yes.
come, right? Kali Yuga has to flourish. So,
Correct.
because the jivas which have to go through all this pain, they are going to take birth in this year, and they have to go through all the karmic reactions. So that's why this whole arrangement is there. But even with this in Kali Yuga, the process is so simple, so we should take it. Yeah. So thank you very much, Prabhujis, for joining today. So I think we'll stop
Thank you very much.
here.
Hare Krishna.
And
Yes.